Today was day 16 in the Lindsay Clancy trial, and we have Dr. Paul Zizel up on the stand. He is a Harvard-educated forensic psychologist. He's been licensed for 37 years. And he came into action on February 3rd of 2023 when he received a phone call from Kevin Reddington. Reddington asks him to go to the hospital to meet with a client of his and just to do a general assessment of her mental health, and we're going to go from there. So when Zizel shows up at the hospital, he goes to the surgical ICU unit, discovers that he can't get access. Remember, this is the story that Reddington was telling, that he had to get a court order in order to let anybody in to see Lindsay. They had her on lockdown. Zizel finally gets in the room and he says that she was shackled to the bed with handcuffs. And he specifically asked, were these soft cuffs? And he's like, no, they were the metal cop cuff kind. That there were tubes, wires. She wasn't intubated, but that she couldn't move below the sternum. And outside the room, there were two troopers in their uniform. So uniformed officers outside the door. He had an initial interview with her, and during this initial conversation, they have a lot of conversations about Patrick. She hasn't spoken with him in 11 days. She hasn't had any contact. She's not been allowed to talk to anybody. She wanted to call him, and she wanted to understand how he was feeling, what he was going through, what the status of kind of their relationship was. How did he feel in this moment? She had concerns for her family. She had concerns about what happened. Zizel explained that he let her use his cell phone. They put it on speakerphone. He dialed for her, and Patrick did not answer. This was February 4th. Patrick did not answer, so she left a voicemail. The voicemail, he said, he paraphrased, but it was basically, I love you very much. I'd really love to talk to you. Please contact me. And then they try again on February 6th. So again, they keep it on speakerphone. They call Patrick, and he is in the room as she's speaking to Patrick. At this point, he says she's still chained to the bed. There are still cops outside, but now they are in civilian clothing. She did say to him over the phone, she loved him very much. She was explaining to Patrick what happened. She told him she heard a male voice ordering her and telling her that she did not have any choice. She had to kill the children and then kill herself. Reddington asks him, did you help her lie? And he says, no. And he said, did you give her any suggestions for what to say to Patrick or to make up the story about the voices? And he says, absolutely not. He's asked, why did you let her use your phone? And he says, it was out of human compassion. It's a person who'd been there all this time and hadn't been allowed to talk to anybody. And he wanted her to be able to reach out to her husband. He goes on to say that there have been over 45 times since then when he has met with her, tends to give her psychological support to this day, even though she's at Tewksbury Hospital. He did say that he has visited her a couple of times during lockup and during this trial. And then he starts to say, due to the nature of the presentation in this court, it's been gut-wrenching, and for anyone that's exposed, and then he gets cut off with an objection because prosecution doesn't want anyone talking about how fucking nasty they've been. In all the time he spent with her, not only has he reviewed all of her records, but he's actually kind of gone through reliving the entire time with Lindsay and getting her take on it. So everything he's talking and confirming, and he really does a nice job of walking through everything. He talks through Dr. Jennifer Tufts and their appointments and the medicines that she prescribed, Nurse Julie Paul, then Nurse Gelada, the 3 appointments that Lindsay had with her, that what she prescribed. He talks about she went to the ER at South Shore and they gave her medication that she said put her into a brain fog. She called the suicide hotline twice and was turned away. She went to Women and Infants. That's the one in Rhode Island. She was turned away. She was deemed as not a good candidate for their program. She went to the ER at Mass General. They then referred her and transported her to McLean Hospital. Although she went there voluntarily, she was committed into a locked room. It was a confined facility. Over the times he's talked to her, when she's describing what she was going through during these months, what he's picking up is that she was numb. She was suffering from disassociation. She talked about times where she couldn't emote. She couldn't get out of bed. She didn't even want to bathe. Then he talked a little bit about psychosis. He says that it is a major mental health disorder. It causes disorganized thinking. It does cause hallucinations, auditory hallucinations, and about 80% of the people that suffer from it hear voices, but they do wax and wane. So you'll hear them really strong one day and then they'll go away for a spell and then they come back. So it's unpredictable when you're going to have those hallucinations. He did confirm that if you're suffering from psychosis, that you can kind of live your everyday life. You can drive, you can use the phone, you can use a computer, you can cook, you can do all of the things you normally do in life. Psychosis does not interfere with everyday living, but it does make it hard if you want to take on new tasks, trying new things that you've not done before. That part could be challenging. But the stuff that you already know how to do, your brain continues to allow you to do it just as you normally would have. He says that she told him she was turned away when she tried to call the suicide hotline twice. She was turned away because she didn't have a plan. I mentioned this in a previous video. I think the calling, when you call a hotline or when you tell somebody, that to me means that they're considering it and someone should step in. But I'm not a doctor. This is what they do. He does mention that when she was in the hospital, the Commonwealth had psychologists come and give her initial examinations. They tested her for malingering, and the results of that test didn't end up coming into the court case. They were not put into evidence. What happened? Did they find out that she had psychosis? Because if it was nothing, if they had tested her and it was clean and clear and she showed no signs of anything, you're damn right that would have been in the evidence. But that test must have shown something for them to keep it out. Ultimately, he says his final sentence is the most important part. He says he believes that she did have a mental disease or defect. He said that she had bipolar disorder with postpartum psychosis. And in addition, she was unable to conform her behaviors to the rule of law. She had no appreciation for the wrongfulness of her act. So he's telling the jury that she did this and she knows it's wrong, but she couldn't stop herself due to the psychosis. On cross-examination, and I won't go deeply into this one because it's so damn predictable, they first start with the let's attack the CV, then let's attack the are you getting paid by the defense to be here? Like, duh. You're an expert. You don't give away your services for free. Of course they're going to charge, but they always make this big deal like, how much is the defense paying you? She went on this whole big thing about bias because he has worked with Reddington before. They go way back. They would be considered friendly. So she really is trying to pitch to the jury that you're just saying what Kevin Reddington wants you to say and he's paying you to say. It lands flat every single time. She does ask the question about the thoughts, the intrusive thoughts, even up to the point where her intrusive thoughts were, I want to harm myself. I want to die. I don't want to live anymore. I may want to harm the children. She said, those only happened on the day of the event. It seems strange that they never happened again after that. And he kind of made a pitch for, well, when you get the right care and you get on the right medicine, these things tend to taper off. But she's trying to kind of do the whole, she's faking it. Right after the deaths of her children, poof, suddenly she doesn't have these intrusive thoughts anymore. Ultimately, I think Zizel did what he needed to do. He told the jury that he thought that she should not be held criminally responsible because she was undergoing psychosis, possibly bipolar, during the time that she killed her children. And then court ended early today, and I think there was a lot of hubbub about why. I really just think it was a scheduling issue. Once they found out that Emily Thorndike wasn't going to be allowed to testify, I just think Reddington wasn't ready with his next witness, so we put a pause on it. We end early. We're going to come back tomorrow. I might be wrong, but we'll wait until tomorrow to find out. I'll keep giving you the news if you keep coming back.